joining.
I think that's everybody here. So good afternoon, councillors. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Everclyde Council Police and Fire Scrutiny Board. Do we have any apologies or substitutions?
We have an apology from Councillor Jackson and an apology from Councillor Wilson with Councillor Brooks substituting, but I don't see him yet.
Okay, do we have any declarations of interest? No, no declarations of interest. Okay, members, as you're aware that this meeting is being live streamed, so if we could just follow the usual protocols, that would be very much appreciated. We will make a start and hopefully Councillor Brooks can join us as soon as possible. Do we have Councillor McLeod on the phone, Jim? Can you hear us? Jim McLeod, can you hear us, Jim?
Yes, convener, yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we'll make a start. The first item on the agenda item number 2, is the Police Scotland Performance Report. Is that Chief Inspector Cameron?
Yes, it is, yes.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, I don't know if the Superintendent wants to say anything before I start.
Chief Superintendent, do you have anything to add at this moment?
Okay, well, I'll just start then. Right, okay, so thank you very much. Obviously, there's quite a lot for me to get through. I'll try and get through as, as quickly as I can. I'll highlight some of the stuff as I go along. It probably won't follow the flow of the report. I'll try my best to stick to it. So total crime. Total crime is down 3.2% for the period of this report, and it's also down 13.2% when we look at the 5-year average. Total number of incidents are down 8.9%, and again on the 5-year average we're down 12.2%. So both of those are looking really good and healthy. So if I look at dishonesty, dishonesty is also down 6.3%, and some of the highlights in there is house break-ins. So house break-ins are down 26.3%. So at this time last year we had 109 house break-ins, and this time this year for this period we have got 73. Frauds. Unfortunately, we have seen fraud continue to rise, significantly rise by 49.8% against the 5-year average. And just to give everyone an assurance that this actually mirrors the national trend for fraud across Scotland. There is a lot of work getting done about that in terms of bogus workers, bogus callers and things like this. And Inverclyde later on this year are also going to put in leaflets into the council tax bills about fraud and money lending, so that we'll get the message out there about that. Shoplifters, so we've recorded 251 shoplifters. That's an increase of 5.3% on the 5-year average, and our detection rate is currently sitting just shy of 80%. Motor vehicle crime, dishonesty around about motor vehicles has fallen by 40.3%, and we've had 2 bogus collar incidents in Inverclyde, one relating to a government boiler replacement scheme and the other in relation to gardening work that have been reported to us. In terms of domestic abuse, so domestic abuse is down 11.9%. We've recorded 466 domestic abuse incidents that we've investigated. And again, that 11.9% drop is against the national average. So we're on track with what's happening across Scotland. Our detection rate has increased by 4.4% to 67.2% of all domestic abuse crimes that have been reported to us. In terms of violent crime, so violent crime is down 7.3% on the 5-year average, and that's 429 violent crimes have been recorded for this reporting period in Inverclyde. We have had 1 murder, which an individual has been arrested for that. Robberies, We are down 4.8% on robberies, and that continues to fall. I had a look at the figures today, and that's continued to fall, so that's good. Serious assaults are down 22.9%, and our detection rate has increased by a further 4% to 68%. We've had 27 fire raising incidents, and this is 2 less than the same period last year. Common assaults, so we're down 4.8% on common assaults, which is 380 assaults. That accounts for 28 fewer victims, and we've had 94 emergency worker assaults. Unfortunately, that's an increase of 10.3% on the 5-year average. In terms of sexual crime, so we've seen a drop of 15%. So we've had 77 reports of sexual crime in the reporting period, and that's, as I say, down 15% in the 5-year average. And road traffic casualties, so we're down 13.6%. So we've had 19 road traffic casualties as opposed to 22 at the same time last year. And we've also continued to see a significant increase in the number of drink and drug, particularly drug driving. So at the moment, for this reporting period, it's sitting at 81 drink and drug drivers have been detected in this reporting period, and that's an increase of 46.7% on the 5-year average. And I had a look at that today, what that looks like today, and that's continued to increase. So from 81 in this reporting period to where it is at the moment is 114, which is an increase of 47%. So that continues to be a concern for us, and we've got lots of actions round about that. You've probably seen us out with speed guns and the road traffic department down stopping loads of vehicles. Disorder complaints. So we continue with our youth disorder plan at the weekend, which is continuing to deliver on us with a multi-agency approach to this. We have seen a drop in disorder complaints of 23.9%, and that's 2,117. And that's based against a 2-year average, because I've only got the data going back for the last 2 years on that. Vandalisms have fell from a 5-year average of 371 vandalisms to 263. Nearly there. Missing persons. So missing persons, we've seen an increase of 37.9%. So we've had 40 missing persons reported during this reporting period. We continue to use our not at home approach to young people, and that's proved really worthwhile, and is working very well for all concerned. The vast majority of missing people that we're finding that's increased this number is adults in the age range of 20 to 59, and over 40% of all missing persons are found within 24 hours. In terms of drug dealing, so drug dealing misuse continues to be a priority for us here in Underclad. So you'll see in the report that it would appear on the report that there's a drop in the number of detections for drug supply charges. I can put a bit of a caveat around about that. So there's been 30 detections of drug supply charges. When you look at the 5-year average, it shows 43. I'll give you an assurance that, so we've got 30 detections, and I've got 12 cases currently sitting at the lab waiting an analysis of the drugs. I'm very confident that they're going to come back positive. That will take me to 42 drug supply charges, and then if you measure that against the 5-year average of 43, we're nearly there. So a wee bit more work to be done. You'll be aware of some of the cultivations, drug seizures that we've had in the last couple of months. So we had at West Blackhall Street, a cannabis cultivation valued at £82,000, and that we got the police helicopter to assist us with that for the heat source, and that's how we identified that. We had another large cannabis cultivation, which is the largest cannabis cultivation we've had in Underclad to date, and that was valued at £1.1 million. And we've got 3 individuals who are currently remanded in custody for that, and inquiries are ongoing with a number of other aspects to that inquiry. We've had a number of poker seizures as well, so we've been very successful with taking four-figure sums off the individuals, taking weapons off the individuals, and we'll just continue to do that. And in terms of so that's the kind of stats side of things. In terms of other developments that are happening in Inverclyde, so I'm actually really delighted about this. So the Inverclyde Education Department agreed to install the Fearless app or the Fearless link into all the schools, the computer, the Glow network, and we're the first in Scotland, if not the UK, to do this for young people. This allows young people in Inverclyde for the first time to have a voice about any concerns they've got about criminality in where they live or where they socialise, and it also guarantees them anonymity, because Fearless is also part of Crime Stoppers. So we launched that last month, and we'll monitor that. I'm hopeful that will produce a lot more intelligence for us to move forward on. We disrupted a vodka factory with HMRC in December 2021. We've also got the hub is now. I know we've just came for a meeting on the hub, so I won't go into any more detail other than to say it's here to stay, which is brilliant. And I think that's pretty much me covered. I know there was quite a lot there, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay, Chief Inspector, thanks very much for that report. I'm going to move to questions. I'll come to Councillor MacLeod first, then Councillor Jim McElhaney. If members just be aware that we in this committee we keep it general. Please do not refer to any specific instance when in your questions. I would appreciate that. So come to Councillor MacLeod first.
Yes, thanks, Convener. I'd just like to say to Chief Inspector, thank you for his report. It's great to see that we're seeing across the board crime coming down again. It's a good news story, and it's something we'll have to let everyone know about, because obviously very often the fear of crime and the perceptions of crime can be greater than the numbers of crimes that are actually being committed. I'm glad to see that assaults are coming down. However, I'm still very concerned. It's still very high numbers of assaults on our emergency workers. I just think it's a scandal, and as I've said before, I would like to see the judiciary clamping down certainly on that. Where I do have a little bit of concern is regarding page 6 in the report, antisocial behaviour, violence and disorder, and in the first paragraph under context it says the detection rate for Group 1 crimes is 59.4% compared to a 5-year average of 72.1%, and in the following 2 paragraphs as well, detection rates were down as well. So I just wondered maybe if Chief Inspector can maybe give us a bit of information as to perhaps why detection has fallen. Thank you.
Yep, so I'm very happy to give you an update on that. So in terms of detection rates being down, so when you look at the picture across Scotland, every policing division is experiencing the same thing. And so put quite simply, a large part of that is down to COVID, because people are self-isolating and we've not been able to get to some people, and it's just been a bit more difficult. So whilst our detection rate is showing lower than we would want it to be, I'm very confident that these inquiries are still ongoing, and so we're still making appointments to go and see people. We're still arresting individuals. We're catching up with the inquiries that we couldn't get to because of COVID. So it's a wee bit of catch up there for us. And when we look at this, it won't happen come the 1st of April. We've got a brilliant detection rate at that point, but those inquiries will still continue. And when you look at when we've finished those inquiries, the detection rate will definitely be higher than what it is at the moment. It's just because of COVID, but as you can imagine, great difficulty getting a hold of certain individuals because of COVID as well. So, and that's not an excuse, it's just a fact really for us.
Okay, Councillor MacLeod, you happy with that?
Well, thanks for the answer, but I'm not 100% happy about it, because, to be honest with you, people who are giving information or passing on information about incidents that's happened, they don't necessarily want the police coming to their door in the first place. And we've just got so many different ways of contacting people now through social media, through WhatsApp and social media, through email, by telephone, by text, and so can we not be contacting people through these means rather than necessarily going to their doors, and would that not improve or help to improve detection rates? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I can speak from my own experience here that I have had issues where people have made it clear that they don't want the police to come to the door, and to be fair to the police and the wardens, they have contacted them by other means, and I've provided the telephone numbers or email addresses. But I see Vicky's wanting to come in with a point there.
Thank you, Chair. Just to provide reassurance that performance in respect of detection rates is something that we scrutinise on a weekly basis to ensure there's no opportunities lost. And as Paul's alluded to, there has been delays in respect of COVID. Sometimes we do need personal contact. It might be in the form of we need identification made by somebody who's called us, but we're very mindful of people's right to privacy and not wanting police at their door, and it's something we will bear in mind. We'll take all steps. So, as I say, I know Paul has certainly put steps in Underclad. He has officers scrutinise any lost opportunities. He's looked at learning where maybe we have missed out on something on a previous incident and checking other incidents to make sure that's not replicated. So it is very much work ongoing. We often find towards the end of the sort of counting year, and I appreciate this is the first half of the year, that we do play a bit of catch up, and as Paul alluded to, COVID has had a huge impact on us, but we haven't given up, and just provide that reassurance that we'll take all opportunities and use learning from across the division to make sure that those who are identified as being responsible are held to account and arrested or charged for the offence.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think that's helpful, because obviously, sometimes I can recognise that you have to have face-to-face conversations and discussions to deal with certain matters. I can understand that, but overall, it's a good report from the Chief Inspector, and I'm pleased that crime is still coming down. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor MacLeod. We'll move on to Councillor Jim McElhaney, followed by Councillor Moran.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I just echo Councillor MacLeod's comments. It is an excellent report. It's great to see the downward trend in the various stats. It's also great to see the Fearless app being rolled out to our young people as well, to make that well known within our education establishments, and hopefully that gives them an avenue to contact the relevant authorities if they so need be. So I think congratulations to all not only the police, but all the partners, the stakeholders, and the collaborative working that's going on behind the scenes to get to this particular point. So well done. My question is relating to the road safety aspect, particularly the number of children seriously injured being 3, which is obviously a rise of 3 in the last year. I was pleased recently that the Underclad Council passed the motion to limit speed to 20 miles per hour in residential areas and streets. I also acknowledge the fact that will take time to fully implement. There'll be a cost involved in that. But I'm just looking to see what assistance or collaboration that the police can give to us to speed that process up, if need be, or if it could be, so that we can make our streets and residential areas safer, particularly for the young children and indeed the elderly and infirm. So just want to hear Paul, any comments on that? Thanks.
Yeah, So thanks very much, Councillor. So in terms of the speed detection side of things, so I've got, as you know, I've got my sub-divisional AVRU team, which is Alcohol Violence Reduction Unit team. So it's a dedicated team of officers that I can use to kind of fix problems that I've got at any time in Inverclyde. So I've had all of them trained recently on the speed detection devices. You will have undoubtedly seen them out and about, because I've had them out and about pretty much every other day. We did a campaign just before Christmas and just after Christmas. So the day on the 21st of December, we had a day of action. We were out with speed guns. We had the road policing department come down. So we got free drink and drug drivers that day. One car, no insurance, which we seized. We haven't crushed it, but we've seized it. A number of seatbelters, a number of mobile phone offenders. So, and that will continue. And next week, you'll see a number of double crewed traffic cars in the area. They're looking for speeders and people not wearing seatbelts. So that will continue into next week, and we'll still continue with the drug driving. But we've been very proactive in pushing fearless and Crime Stoppers in Inverclyde, and that's really paid dividends for us in terms of get people phoning, having the confidence to phone us anonymously, I accept, to tell us about drink and drug drivers, and that's how we've got as many as what we've got. So we'll continue to do that. We're also in the next couple of months we'll be putting speed cameras. They're getting put in to different locations across Inverclyde, and there's also going to be mobile cameras that will be coming into the area. That didn't just happen. That's happened because obviously we've had a couple of incidents involving children on the roads as well. So we want to try and make sure that our roads in Underclad are as safe as they can be. So lots of activity around about road policing, and you'll certainly over the next month or two, you will definitely see more and more officers out and about stopping cars. So that'll just continue.
Okay, do you want to follow that up, Councillor McElhaney?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Thanks, Paul. But yeah, it's a full support and welcome all those various initiatives. But you didn't really address my initial question, was that by reducing the speed from 30 to 20 in residential streets, you're thereby reducing the probability of a child being hurt. I don't know the three recorded cases as to where the individual cars or whatever were speeding, or they were actually going within the legal speed limit. But I'm sure Councillor MacLeod would have the appropriate up-to-date stats. But if you reduce it from 30 to 20 in a residential street, you're reducing by X amount the probability of a child being seriously hurt. And I was asking originally was, is there any way that through the police support that we can get to that end goal of having all our residential areas 20 mile per hour zones?
I mean, to be honest with you, that really is it's not really a policing matter. That's more the council. If they want to reduce the speed limits, then it's for the council to do that. The police will be consulted on it, but it's not really something that we would actively go and do. That would be something the council would do. I know the super's got her hand up, so I don't know if the super wants to come in on this.
Yeah, okay, Superintendent.
Thanks, Stuart. I was just going to add, just in addition to what Paul had said earlier, is that we enjoy particularly in Inverclyde, a really positive relationship with road policing colleagues. We meet with them once a week, and they are always asking for tasking requests, for any assistance they require. So we will give them hotspots for accidents. To be honest, they can come to us with stats as they tend to look into it first. So what we could do throughout the year, specific times, is have sort of campaigns in respect of speeding. What we do tend to do is have it in two stages. We do an education phase before an enforcement phase. So this is something which we could do throughout the year at key locations identified by our analysts or by the road policing analysts, and we could flag it up on social media channels, but more than happy to work with council to assist them in introducing this speed limit. As Paul says, it's not us bring out the law, but we can actually help enforce it, and more than happy to assist Inverclyde Council where we can in that.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent. I think the police would always welcome a reduction in speed limits, but as Chief Inspector Cameron says, that ultimately would be a decision for us moving forward, and they will be consulted and have their input, but ultimately it would be a decision for the councillors to take. Can we move on? Councillor McLean will take. Councillor Moran, is it you happy with that? Councillor Moran.
Thank you, Convener. I'm mindful of your opening remarks, so if this question is termed incompetent or you want to take offline, I'm quite happy. But my question is about the cannabis farms. This is the third one that we've had here in Underclad, with 2 in Port Glasgow and 1 in Greenock. My question to the police is, see the owners of these properties, are they some way a criminal act as well when they rent these places out? You know,
through you, sorry for interrupting, Convener, through you, I wonder if it would be more appropriate that Councillor Moran's question is put to the Chief Inspector offline rather than being raised in the public forum.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Anne.
Okay, I'll take that legal ruling, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I do share your concerns. I had a similar question, but I'm sure Chief Inspector will be happy to discuss this with you after the meeting. Can we move on to Councillor Nelson?
Thank you, Convener. I'm going to come back to road safety that Jim McElhinney was talking about there. There's no detail as far as I can see, you know, especially to the number of children seriously injured. You know, were they injured as pedestrians or cyclists, or were they injured as passengers in cars? I know I attended one accident on dual carriageway where there was a child taken away in an ambulance. So I'm just trying to, there's not enough detail there as far as I'm concerned. And I wonder if that could be commented on, and if in future we could have more detail like that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. I'm not sure we can get into too much detail on that, and Mrs. Sinclair may be able to give us a bit of guidance on that, and Chief Inspector Cameron as well. I'm not sure whether we can go any further on that. If Anne, would you like to maybe come in on that, please?
Yeah, I think I would make a similar comment as before. I'm afraid if you're looking for specific information in relation to cases, then I think it's appropriate to take these discussions offline rather than raising them here.
But I think there would just be statistics as to how many people were injured within vehicles and how many people were injured as pedestrians or cyclists, you know. These are statistics, they're not identifying anyone.
Yeah,
I'm actually quite happy to answer that, because I'm not giving away any information, and I can say that the 3 of them were pedestrians.
Right, okay. And I also see, you know, comment about the length of time that it takes for results to come back for drink and drug driving offences. That seems quite incredulous that it would take such a long time, that it would skew the figures, you know, a month later on.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, what happens is that all goes up to the lab for analysis. It'll either be blood or urine it's sent, and if we use a drug swab and we have an early indicator of what that drug may be, it's in the system. But yeah, it goes to the lab. It does take a fair bit of time for them to put that through the process. And not only that, you're competing against obviously other, I would say, more serious crimes. If it's murder, attempt murders, then obviously the lab will prioritise those. But it does go to the lab. It does take a bit of time to come back. There's nothing. I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Is that something we should be pushing the Scottish Government to put more resources into labs then?
So, I mean, just from a policing point of view, I know that we submit a lot to the lab. And so whether or not, I don't know what the situation is with COVID in terms of staffing and the backlogs and stuff like this, but I know that there's a lot of demands put on them, so I'm not actually sure. I can't actually comment for them, but other than I know when we send the stuff away, it does take a bit of time to come back to us, but we do get the results that allows us to prosecute individuals, but it does take a bit of time.
Right. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. Does anybody have any further questions for Police Scotland? Okay, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Performance Report.
Thanks, Convener. I'll just say a couple words and I'll bring Murdo in to take committee members through the report. Just a few things from me over the course of the reporting period and probably the start of the year. It's been a pretty challenging period, not just for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, for all our partners. I know certainly social care at one point were struggling with absence rates, and that's been reflected across the emergency services in general. Myself was self-isolating with COVID at the start of the year, as was my team. I've got 2 members of my senior team currently isolating, and it's really just, although the report's positive, behind the scenes, literally keeping the wheels turning on a daily basis has been a challenge through us. We're hopefully getting to a much more settled picture, but there was periods of time where we were really moving staff all over, not just Inverclyde, but all over the country to make sure the appliances were still on the run. So it's really a thanks from me publicly to our central staffing teams, to operations control, our partners, and obviously all of our firefighters across Inverclyde who have got on with it, and they've been a credit to us. In terms of operational activity, although the activity's been down, we did see some fires around Clune Park again. I'm pleased to say that we've secured another thermal image camera for the station, which will improve firefighter safety. And with that landscape picture from the local authority, that live landscape, that's allowing us to make assessments as and when we get any incidents in and around that. So that's a positive step forward in terms of firefighter safety. The UFAS consultation has concluded. The implementation of that will probably be late 2022, maybe even into 2023. I think the service feels that because our position around unwanted firearm signals has been so well embedded in what fire and rescue's done for as long as anyone can remember, any change to that will require a bit of interaction with businesses to make sure they understand what their responsibilities are, and to give them a bit of reassurance that the predetermined attendance, the number of appliances that will be attributed to any building, will remain unchanged. So if there's a confirmation of a fire, they will get the full weight of response. So that hasn't changed. Probably the hottest topic, and I'm sure it will come up, Murdo can take you through some of the statistics about systems that have been fitted, is the new detector standard. We're working closely. We've certainly done it with Renfrewshire Council, and I'm keen to mirror this across Inverclyde and also East Renfrewshire that we cover, is to make sure that people are aware of what that looks and feels like for them, and give them a bit of reassurance that nobody's getting prosecuted. We're making sure that where appropriate we can fit these systems if we have them, and also in the occasions where somebody either doesn't meet the criteria for any other reason, we will still provide advice and guidance and go out and fit single point detectors, which will still keep people safe. The one request I would make, and I'll continue to make, is that hopefully members of the public can use that national resource, that national helpline, rather than the local fire stations. The demand of calls just for people wanting advice has been unprecedented, and it's getting to the point where station personnel are struggling to maintain their operational readiness and get any meaningful time to train. They're more than happy to provide advice and guidance to the public, whether that's at the phone or whether they actually turn up at the station. But I would appeal to the public just to use that national helpline rather than the local fire stations, and allow them a bit of breathing space to get their training done. The last thing before I bring Murdo in is just around conversations that have come up at a number of committees that we attend around the provision of naloxone. I know colleagues in Police Scotland had a pilot with this. The service position is now that we will carry naloxone. We still to have a formalised position on what that looks and feels like, but I don't often use props at committee, but if committee can see that. At stopthedeaths.com, I've done the training myself. I have got it just as a concerned member of the public, and that pouch will be going into my service vehicle. So it's a positive step forward. We as a fire and rescue service have a varying degree of fire deaths a year, ranging from about 20 to about 40. When you layer on top of the fact that 1,339 people died as a result of a drug overdose, it's right and proper that we put our shoulder to the wheel and assist partners where we can, and members of the public should we come across them. So a really positive step forward for the organisation, but I'll come back to further committees and let them know exactly what that looks and feels like from an operational context. It will likely be that these will go in to the trauma kits that firefighting personnel carry on the appliances. Thanks, Convener, and I'll bring Murdo in to take you through the report.
Thanks, boss. Convener, elected members, I'll take you through the highlights of the report as submitted. As David pointed out, statistically it's a positive report. We have reductions in overall activity in every area apart from deliberate fires, and David highlighted the challenges we're all having around the Clune Park area and continue to do so. Other than that, the 3-year averages are all reducing. Drilling down into it a wee bit more, once again, overall fires are down, and that is a common trend across our stats, which is really good to see. If we move on to accidental dwelling fires, which one of the most important areas that we're scrutinised on, once again, we have a reduction, which I will always say at these meetings, smoke detection works, and David alluded to the new legislation which came in as of Tuesday, and I'm sure we'll have some discussion around that during the meeting. What I can say for the reporting period is that we have been busy taking care of the most at risk within the community. Our dedicated community action team have been out and done over 50 fits to people at very high risk. Our operational crews, there has been over 120. 127 is the amount of high risk visits that's been carried out, and over 300 sets of the link detection systems have been fitted. So that's a significant impact for the most at risk within our community. Because of the benefits of detection, once again, the impact and the severity of any injuries is particularly low. And it's great to see that in this period we have no fire-related casualties. Excellent to see that. Deliberate fire setting, as I said, slightly up, and we do have some particular areas of concern which we have spoken about. I want to highlight and commend the tri-weekly community hub meetings between the emergency services and all the partners. This is working. The Chief Inspector spoke about this earlier on, and absolutely fantastic. The ability to quickly share information and get intelligence out through a single point of contact is really paying us dividends. Worthy now of also looking at the period that within this report, which covers round about bonfire night, and particular thanks to all the partners, the local authority. We had a very, very, very quiet period. I don't like to use the Q word, however, it's absolutely worthy of note. There was some concerns round about that this year, as we had all discussed, and it was a very, very quiet period of activity. So grateful thanks to that, and that is perfect planning. It is not by chance. In respect of non-domestic fire safety, once again, very, very good picture here, and our dedicated protection teams provide excellent professional support to duty holders and non-domestic businesses. Finally, to highlight our unwanted fire alarm signals for now will continue to be the same as you would have heard at these meetings year in, year out. However, the work that will come in and will begin around about April 2023 will free up that round about 30% of our activity within Underclad. It is the same top 5 premises that we are dealing with most of the time. Our predetermined attendances don't change. The options that's been selected as regard of all the consultation will very much put more onus on premises to liaise with the fire and rescue service to have that discussion. Is this a fire or is it not? And then we can change our response to that. The benefit there is that gives us more capacity to take care of the people in our communities as we change the firefighter role, and that's something that I'll look forward to discussing with you as we continue to have these meetings and we're scrutinised on our activity. And that's going to be an exciting time for us. We free up that capacity. That means we can do more to protect the people within our community. That's the highlights of the report. Committee, we'll welcome your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Murdo. Councillor MacLeod, Jim, do you have a question for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service?
Yes, thanks, convener. Again, can I welcome a report, a very good report. It's great to see that the overall picture is that there are less fires and less incidents of people being injured and hurt, which is great. But a lot of that's down to, I think, work fire service has done over a number of years. Prevention is always better than cure, and you have done a great job reaching out to people, visiting people in their homes to help them and to give them advice, and well done to all of you. I'd also like to say that anyone who's had COVID, I hope that all your colleagues have recovered from it, from any bouts that have had. Still worrying though is the deliberate fire setting. I've raised this before, in particular in my own ward in Inverclyde East Central, where the bulk of the fires have taken place. That still concerns me. It's good that some of the initiatives that were now taken in a certain housing estate, and hopefully that will help reduce that number in the coming reports. That would be good. One of the things that we've talked about it as well there was about the new smoke heat fire detectors in people's homes and the new legislation. I've had a number of constituents, I'm sure other councillors probably have as well, who have contacted me wanting to know, what to do, what traders, if they're unable to put these systems up themselves, who the right traders to go to can do a job without overcharging them, and indeed if they are able to fit them themselves, where is the best place it could possibly go to buy these systems. So I think there's obviously work to be done there, where it's between the Scottish Government or Council or Fire Service or whoever. I think we need to get that information out to people, and any advice we can do around pointing people in the direction of traders who are well qualified and are not going to overcharge. I think that's something that we should be looking to do as well. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. I'm going to invite maybe Martin in first on that, please, and maybe David or Murdo. Martin.
So we are doing a wee bit of work with Care and Repair, because obviously Care and Repair got some more funding. You'll probably be aware they had nationally an initial £500,000 of funding, but that was doubled. So we'll look at what capacity they have to increase the number of alarms that they can fit. And we'll also go back, we'll have a further conversation with David and his team about how we can help with identifying people who need them, possibly in line and speaking to the HSCP to see if we can identify people who would profit from this. We did have some discussion, members might be aware, we did have some discussion about this at Education and Communities Committee, and we are looking at trying to get a baseline figure for how many properties have actually managed to fit these. But that will take a wee while to know. I think probably the national figure of probably 50% is probably not far from the truth. So the other thing we can do is we can have a wee look at making sure that our trusted traders scheme includes people who can fit them. But what I would say is there is this kind of national issue with supply, and these things all have chips in them, and there's both an issue with supply and there's probably an issue with capacity for the number of people who are available to fit them. So it's not going to be a quick fix. I think it will take some time to actually roll out to everybody.
Thanks, Martin. David or Murdo?
Thanks, convener. Yeah, it's just Councillor MacLeod's first point there. There's actually a working group being set up across a number of local senior officer areas to look at deliberate fire setting and try and share some good practice. So hopefully we'll see some good work coming out of that as a perennial challenge for us. On the detector standard, listen, first and foremost, my job is to make sure people are safe, and that includes our firefighters and members of the public. So regardless of supply, demand, whatever it is, issue, I will make sure that if somebody contacts us for advice, at the very least they will get single point detectors fitted in their house if that's their concern. Where the second part of it is, and I'm acutely aware of the general landscape around people's finances just now, the last thing I want is people panicking about an extra cost to them when so many other household bills are coming up. But if we can provide that reassurance to them, and anything we can do either for us to fit them if they fit our criteria, or to point them in the direction where they can get these systems fitted, but more importantly to make them understand. And I think people panic when they see legislation that they've got this image of somebody kicking their door down and thinking they're going to get prosecuted. It's not about that. First and foremost, as Murdo indicated in the report, detection works. So just because the system isn't linked in somebody's house, it will still alert them to fire and allow them to get out of the building, but it's in our DNA to make people safe, so we won't step away from this. And as I say, first and foremost, it's a message of reassurance to people that they're not going to be prosecuted, but any system in their house, coupled with the advice and guidance that our firefighting personnel give them, fundamentally is there to keep them safe. But we'll work with Martin and the team in Underclad and hopefully dispel some of the myths around it, allay some people's fears, because that's really the level of telephone traffic and footfall that the stations have had. It's people just wanting a bit of advice, not necessarily being desperate for the new standard, just to make sure they're all right around things like house insurance. I spoke to the Association of British Insurers and AXA to get their position on it, and in general terms, in the vast majority of cases, if not all, insurance is applied on a UK-wide basis. So if there's working detection in the system, as outlined in a policy, for example, it wouldn't be affected. I would always encourage people to check with their individual insurers, but as a general rule, the ABI have told me that that's not something that people should be alarmed about. But again, with the caveat that they should always check with their individual insurers. So hopefully, convener, it's a message of reassurance to the residents of Inverclyde that we will still work as hard as we can on the cases where these systems need fitted. We'll do that, and I know Councillor Moran had previously brought up at committee about those most vulnerable. That's who these systems are for that we have. But as I say, if we can assist with care and repair and assist with the local authority, we absolutely will do that.
Okay, thanks very much, David. That's good to know. Okay, Jim, are you okay with that, and we can move on?
Yeah, can I just say thanks to both answers, and that's very encouraging. I've given some advice about insurance to some of my constituents who are very worried about it. And can I just say, well done to fire service for taking on these naloxone kits. I think that is very vital news. The more organisations that do that, the better. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Jim. Don't see any further questions in the chat, so we'll move on to agenda item number 4, the Local Police and Fire Scrutiny Committee update report. And I believe, William, you're going to present this.
Yes, thanks, convener. I'm going to take you through the report. I'm not going to focus too much on the updates that are there from the various boards and progress, because they're all really for noting. So I'll take you through the report, and we'll really focus on the COP26, 5th November, and crucially the Underclad Community Partnership Hub. So I'm going to, excuse me. So the body worn videos is a rollout, cyber kiosk, and the independent advisory group. All that information is there, really just as an update for you. I don't think there's any real value in going through it paragraph by paragraph. It's really just there for your noting. COP26, as has been mentioned in previous meetings, most complex and challenging policing operation in the UK. It had a local impact, but I'm glad to say that policing priorities in Underclad were maintained, and that was particularly relevant around the 5th of November action plan, where we had a number of multi-agency resources, and we had activities coordinated back through the Community Safety Partnership Action Plan. So in terms of handling, COVID presents significant challenges, and Police Scotland continue to let us know and the public know about those challenges. The COVID issue obviously isn't limited to Police Scotland, and it's a shared challenge for a lot of emergency services and the delivery of public services, including those by the council. Police call handling there has been an increase in demand. Police Scotland continue to prioritise their 999 calls and maintain good immediate 999 response times, and continues to work to mitigate the anticipated length in wait times for 101 calls, and the police authority continue to monitor and report on that situation and advise the conveners of police and fire committees of the outcome of their monitoring and reporting. The dates for the Scottish Police Authority Regional Engagement Plan have been confirmed, and there'll be a West Division meeting scheduled for Wednesday 16th of March, and SPA officials will be in contact with conveners to discuss arrangements and agenda items. Just to remind conveners that officers are available to support the relevant elected members in that engagement plan. In terms of Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Board, unfortunately, the timing of their board meeting didn't allow us to provide a full report to this committee, but we will provide one to the next committee. I mentioned earlier, and as Murdo mentioned in his update, we delivered the multi-agency 5th of November action plan throughout October and early November. So the plan included youth engagement, visits to approved traders on their lead up to it, multi-agency attendance at known hotspots on the 5th of November for the removal of bonfire materials, and there was close communication between police, fire, community wardens and our youth outreach workers on that evening of 5th of November. I'm glad to say the date passed largely without incident. All partners have met since then, and generally we've agreed it was a successful approach, and the commitment has been given by all partners to a similar delivery in 2022, and we will meet well in advance to put a similar action plan in place. That last year's action plan will be the starting point for next year's action plan, and we'll update that with intelligence and information that's relevant and available to us at that time. The Underclad Community Safety Partnership Hub. So remember, there was a full elected member briefing from Paul Cameron and myself back in September, following a pilot of the Community Safety Partnership Hub for the 4-month period prior to that. It was agreed to formalise the hub as a fully operational model, and I'm glad to say that the Community Safety Partnership Strategic Group have agreed that and approved that. So we're now really, the model is in place and it's here to stay. So it operates on very much a tasking-based model with a focus on community-related issues, vulnerable people, drug and alcohol issues, antisocial behaviour and violence. And the hub has also been developed to offer a one-stop shop model of contact for elected members with a dedicated email address, which is then filtered direct to relevant agencies for action and response. So whilst the partnership is police-led and it's hosted by the police and relevant issues are initially identified from police call logs, core partners such as Fire and Rescue, Health and Social Care Partnership and the Council's Community Safety and Resilience Team and Social Protection Team are represented at every meeting. And those meetings happen 3 times a week, with additional meetings currently happening with the housing associations. They will shortly be brought in following the completion of information sharing agreements. They'll be brought into those 3 times a week meeting, so we will have all partners at single meetings. So essentially, if there's any community-based issues needing to be discussed, they will be discussed almost every 48 hours with relevant actions agreed, tasked out to the agencies and progress maintained. The one-stop shop will allow elected members that direct contact with the hub. The email address will be circulated shortly, and that offers that direct contact with the hub and also a direct response from either the hub, or if it's not hub related, it goes direct to the relevant service within the council, and we'll be provided with an update on that. So it really offers that much quicker process for elected members and allows them to respond to their constituents. In terms of monitoring the hub, so the data will be analysed by our Community Safety Partnership data analyst it will be received on a weekly basis but reported on a quarterly basis and an annual basis to this committee. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments on that.
Okay, thanks very much, William. I'm looking at the chat for any questions before I come to Councillor MacLeod. Do you have any questions, members, for William or any of the other officers or police or the fire service? Councillor MacLeod, do you have anything, Jim?
Yeah, it's just a comment, basically. We had the briefing earlier on this afternoon, about community safety and the community safety hub, and just to say publicly, I think it's a very good move, and it'll certainly help things going forward. Just to have one point of contact. I know myself and probably other councillors, when we get incidents reported to us, that we quite often send emails to the housing association, to council, to community warden service, to the police, and sometimes you get delays in some of the answers back or responses back, and then sometimes not everybody copies everybody else in. So this will certainly, I think, make the whole process far more efficient, and we'll be able to get back to our constituents with a clear, concise answer, and it'll be, from the one source. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I do agree. I think the partnership hub is certainly a step forward, and we'll see the benefits in the coming months, hopefully. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Can we agree the recommendations in the report? Okay, thank you very much. That's us meeting now finished, and I just thank you for your attendance and have a good day.